Hi! Hello! I'm losing my sanity. This is my fourth time trying to make this video. First time was due to scheduling issues. Second time, I got the video done, got halfway through editing, and it was well over 20 minutes long. Which is way too long for a video like this. And not only was it long, but it was also really bad. So I scrapped it. And third time, I apparently forgot to clear my memory card. And in that time, it took me to make this video. I got not only one of these trophies, but I got two. And I use the exact same list. This one can go right over here. Right here. Enough of that, let's just jump right into it. I have 3 Fallen Albaz, 3 Branded Fusion, 3 Aluber, 3 Branded Opening, and the 1 Branded Lost. This is pretty much the bread and butter of the deck. You definitely want to see Branded Fusion or route to get there. Opening, you send a card from your hand to the graveyard for effect, not cost, to either add or special summon in defense a Despia monster. Most of the time you're going to be activating this in the draw phase because it's a quick play to summon Aluber in defense, so you can add Branded Fusion. And Aluber can search out any branded spell or trap, so it can add Branded Fusion or Branded Lost or any other branded spell or trap that you need. And Lost does a couple things. And Lost does a... how do I word it? Okay. And Lost searches out the rest of what you need and makes it so your opponent can't respond to fusion summons and can't activate... And Lost makes it... And Lost searches out pretty much the rest of what you need and makes it so that your opponent can't respond to fusion summons and your opponent can't negate the activation of fusion summons. Wow. No. And Branded Lost searches out the rest of what you need when you fusion summon and your opponent can't respond to fusion summons and can't activate cards or effects that... No. Just says you can't negate it. And Lost searches out the rest of what you need, and it also makes it so that your opponent can't respond to fusion summons and can't negate cards that fusion summon. So your opponent can't negate the activation of cards that fusion summon. They can still negate the effect, which is why Ash Blossom still works when Lost is on board. So if your opponent activates something like Solemn Judgment, congratulations, they paid half their life points for no effect. For extension, I am running 2 Cartagia, 1 Quem, 1 Tragedy, 1 Ad Libitum, 1 Branded Red, and 1 Branded White. Cartagia is a quick effect fusion on either player's turn, and is part of the reason why the Gimmick Lock is still possible in this deck. And Quem is absurd. When she summons, she can send from the deck a Albaz or a card that mentions it to the graveyard. Usually you're sending Cartagia. The other effect is when a monster is removed from the extra deck, she can target a Fallen Albaz or a monster that mentions it in the graveyard and special summon it. So that means she can special summon Albaz to use his effect, or you can special summon Cartagia because it mentions Albaz, or you can special summon Mirror Jade and make his effects live again because he is not a hard once per turn. And she's treated as both a Dogmatica and a Despia monster. When Tragedy is sent to the graveyard by card effect, it can add in a Despia monster. So you can add in Quem or Aluber, or Ad Libitum if you need him. The main purpose of Ad Libitum is when you use it as fusion material, you can target a Despia monster or a level 8 or higher fusion monster that's either banished or in the graveyard and special summon it. So Ad Libitum also makes Mirror Jade live again. Branded Red is usually the way you're using Ad Libitum for this. Branded Red, target Fallen Albaz or a Despia monster at hand, and then you can fusion summon a level 8 or higher monster. Branded White is just a recovery tool. I haven't had to use it yet. Basically, if something like Albion is impermed or effect failured, you can use Branded White to still go into Lubellion. And what would a branded deck be without Bestial? I have 1 Lubellion, 1 Serenair, 1 Retribution, and 1 Branded Beast. So I know technically these 2 cards aren't technically part of the Bysteel package, but we'll get into that later. Anyways, Rebellion has a few effects. The first one is that you can't normal or set this monster. Its second effect is, while it's in your hand or in the graveyard, you contribute a level 6 or higher dragon dark monster to special summon it. The next effect is you can discard it to add in a different Bysteel. Its onboard effect is you can place a continuous branded spell or trap from your deck directly to the spell and trap card zone. So you can place either Lost or Branded Beast. Serenaire has the same shared effect that all Bysteels have, is you can target a light or dark monster in either player's graveyard, banish it, and special summon him. The second effect is when it's sent to the graveyard, you can send a branded spell or trap from your deck to the graveyard. And that's kind of where Retribution comes into play. So while it's in the graveyard, you can banish it and add in a branded spell or trap from the graveyard to your hand. So that's how we're covering Branded Fusion typically, if we need to. You can also negate a card that would special summon by either sending a fusion monster you control or 2 fusion monsters from the graveyard that mentioned Fallen Alabaster material back to the extra deck. Branded Beast is another form of disruption. While you control a Bysteel monster, you can tribute a dragon type monster you control and target a monster your opponent controls and destroy it. So the last few support cards, I have 3 fusion deployment, 1 kit, 1 Branded High Spirit, 3 Nadir Servant, Albion the Shrouded Dragon, Tri-Brigade Merc Carrier, and Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. So we're gonna put this degeneracy away for a little bit. Let's just focus on this for right now. Fusion deployment is another route to either Cartagia or Albaz if you need it. Usually, Spriggan's Kit is just another way to get Branded Fusion into the hand. Branded High Spirit is usually a combo piece for Nadir Servant, but I'll get to that in a bit. And Nadir Servant adds in either Fall Albaz or a Dogmatica monster by sending an extra deck monster from the extra deck to the graveyard. And that's at the cost of not being special summon extra deck monsters for the rest of the turn. Albion is really just here for more draw power and to get Retribution into the graveyard. And Mercury has a couple of different effects. While you control a fusion monster that mentions Fallen Albaz as fusion material, it's a hand trap to negate monster effects. And if it's banished, you can add in Fallen Albaz or a monster that mentions him, except for Mercury himself. Alright, now to address the elephant in the room, that thing. So when you summon him, you cannot special summon for the rest of the turn except for Gimmick Puppet. Typically, you're giving this card to your opponent via Sanctifier. And to round out the rest of the deck, I have Called by the Grave, 2 Crossout Designator, 2 Ash Blossom, and 2 Imperm. So you definitely want to run these because of Ash Blossom. Or if you come across a mirror match, you can cross out the Branded Fusion, or you can cross out the Crossout, because they are absolutely running Crossout Designator. And I don't think these 2 need to be higher than 2. I think 2 is perfectly fine. If you run 3, I think it becomes a little too clunky. On to the extra deck, I have 2 Albion the Branded Dragon, 1 Albion the Sanctifier Dragon, 1 Rebellion the Searing Dragon, 2 Mirror Jade, 1 Titaniclad, 1 Sprin the Iron Dash Dragon, 1 Rindrum, 1 Abolitinus, Linnetus. There we go. That's how you pronounce that. 1 Dragonel, 1 Masquerade, 1 Despian Quirirdis. That's how you pronounce that. 1 Garda Chimera, and 1 Lulu Lilith. So I'm just gonna push all this down here for now, and then push them back up as I talk about them. Albion, when he is fusion summoned, you can fusion summon another time by using cards in your hand, field, or in the graveyard by banishing them. And when he's sent to the graveyard, during the end phase, you can set or add a branded spell or trap from your deck. And Sanctifier Dragon is the entire reason why the gimmick lock is still possible. Because you target 2 monsters in either player's graveyard, and you special summon them, 1 to your side and 1 to your opponent's side. So basically, you summon any monster that's not Gimmick Puppet to your side, and then summon Gimmick Puppet to your opponent's side. Yay, cool and interactive. Lebellion is another fusion summon on its fusion summon, where you discard a card for cost, and you use materials in Banish, Graveyard, or on the field, shuffle them back into the deck to bring out another monster. Mirror Jade has a couple of different effects. The first one is you send a fusion monster that mentions Albaz from your extra deck to the graveyard and then banish a monster on the field. The downside is that the effect cannot be used the next turn. Its second effect is when it's removed from the field while you control it by an opponent's card, not a card effect, card, you can, during the end phase, Regeki. So if this is touched by a kaiju, congratulations, you're Regeki during the end phase. So Titaniclad has a couple different effects. The first one is to get really big in attack points using the levels of its fusion materials times 100. Its second effect is, during the end phase, if it's sent to the graveyard, you can special summon either Albaz or a Dogmatica, which you can summon Clem this way, because again, she's a Dogmatica monster. So Sprint is here for a couple different reasons. The first one is that you can use it to get Contact C off of your board. The second one is it has the same effect as Titaniclad, except you special summon Spriggans and not Dogmatica. Rindarum also has a couple of different effects, but the main one that I use is its graveyard effect, where you can banish it to special summon Fallen Albaz. Dragonel also has a few different effects. The first one is that when it's fusion summoned, you can Foolish from either deck or extra deck a level 6 or higher light or dark monster. Its second effect is if your opponent special summons a monster via a monster effect, you can banish it from either field or graveyard to special summon a Dogmatica from the main deck or Despia from the extra deck. Alba is here for a couple of different reasons as well. The first one is its summon condition, where you can either fusion summon for it, or you can contact fuse using monsters on your side and your opponent's side. So my goal is to eventually just set Albaz, and then just yeet away an entire Dragon Link board for this thing. I have yet to accomplish this goal. And of course, it has a graveyard effect during the end phase, where you can add in a polymerization or a fusion normal spell card from your deck to your hand. Which, by the way, you can add in fusion deployment off of this card. It's stupid. That's Grey Dragon, it's Tax Dragon. Your opponent has to pay 600 life points to activate cards or effects. Quiritus makes the attack points of all monsters except for level 8 or higher fusion monsters 0. Guard Chimera. So you have to use at least a monster in hand and 2 on board, or 1 on field and 2 in hand to get it out. But it destroys however many you used on board and draws however many you used in hand. So Lilith, I only ever use its negate effect, where if a monster is removed from the extra deck, you can negate a monster your opponent controls until the end phase, and all your monsters gain 500 attack. Permanently. And lastly, the side deck, 2 Cosmic Cyclone, 1 Lightning Swarm, 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, 2 Evenly Matched, 2 Dark Hole, 1 Jinzo, 1 Necrogold Banshee, 1 Zombie World, Bysteel Druisworm, Magnum Hut, and 2 Typhoon. So these 2 are sided simply because I'm not always fighting a light or dark deck, but when those 2 come up, those go in, absolutely. Dark Hole is just another way of dealing with cards like Contact C and Ibly, or just a board that you really can't deal with otherwise. These cards up here, just general back row removal. I mean, Evenly Matched is a little bit more than back row removal, but, you know, Labyrinth. And speaking of Labyrinth, that's why I run a Jinzo. And you bring him out the exact same way that you bring out Gimmick Puppet. You just bring them to your side. Necrogold Banshee in Zombie World is really just here for the flu matchup. It can work against other matches, but the flu is my priority with these 2. I feel like a lot of people are going to be questioning Typhoon. So the reason why I put in Typhoon is mostly because, again, flu. So my reasoning for this is, if they have anti-spell fragrance face up, and I don't draw into Cosmic Cyclone until later, I'm probably going to be locked down by Dark Sigmorg. Because Dark Sigmorg says you can't set spells or traps. So I can't set spells or traps, and the only way I can put spells and traps onto the board is by setting them. I kind of lose, because the main play of the deck is to use a spell card. So this is really just here to kind of answer that. So the reason why Branded High Spirit. So let's say you activate Branded Fusion, and your opponent ashes it. Okay, so from there, you activate Nadir's Servant to send Sprind, and then add Albaz. During the end phase, you go Sprind effect to special summon Kit. Kit effect to add Branded High Spirit, and then send a card from your hand to the bottom of the deck. Now you activate Branded High Spirit, reveal Albaz, and then reveal Albion. Send both of them to the graveyard, add Mercarrier. Still end phase. Albion to set Branded Red. Now pass turn. Draw phase. Branded Red, targeting Albaz. Add back to the hand. Banish to fuse for Lubellion. Lubellion effect, discard any of the other two cards that you have that's not Mercarrier. Send both the Lubellion and the Albaz back to the deck to summon Mirror Jade. So during your opponent's draw phase, you have gone into Mirror Jade with a disruption after getting Ash. But if you're looking for a more degenerate combo, all you need is Branded Fusion and Cartesia, or a route ticket to both of them. And it's actually relatively easy to do so. So easy that I'm not even going to set it up. I'm just going to shuffle the deck and see where that gets us. So, for this hand, we draw Branded Fusion, Lubellion, Fusion Deployment, Call by the Grave, and Branded Opening. And we are already there. The first thing we are going to do is activate Lubellion and add Serenaire. Next, we are going to activate Fusion Deployment. Reveal Dragonel, Special Cartesia. Now, Branded Fusion. And we're going to send Albaz, and let's see, we already have the Lubellion and Grave, so we don't want to send a dark monster. We want to send a light monster. So our only option is really Cartesia. We could send Quem, but no. You send a Cartesia. Special summon Albion. Albion effect. So in this case, we have to banish Albaz and Serenaire. We can send the Albion, but we want to save him for Lubellion. So banish these two for Lubellion. Lubellion effect, cost, send the Branded Opening, Chainlink 1. Chainlink 2, Cartesia to fuse. Fusing these two for Dragonel. And then resolve Lubellion, sending Cartesia and Albaz back to the main deck for Sanctifier. And then Dragonel effect, since it was summoned to send, it was on top of the deck, the Gimmick Puppet. Now attribute Albion for Lubellion. Lubellion effect to place Branded Beast. You could place Lost instead, but you're not going to be fusion summoning on your opponent's turn, so I think Branded Beast is probably the better option here. And then you can set the Call by the Grave. Probably better if you do. End phase, Albion to set. We're going to set Retribution, just in case. Draw phase of your opponent's turn. Sanctifier, targeting Albion and Gimmick Puppet. Special summon Albion to your side and Gimmick Puppet to your opponent's side. And congratulations, they cannot special summon for the rest of the turn. This card is dumb. Anyways, I'm really hoping Sanctifier gets banned on the next list, because Branded becomes a lot more interesting when it does. Branded is plenty powerful without the Gimmick Lock. It does not need it. And I've seen some people drift away from it with the new illusion support. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video or had a suggestion for this deck, let me know down below. One thing I'm going to address right out of the gate with that is the fusion duplication and thrust combo. The reason why I am not running those is because I don't own them. My name is Vincent, and I am the Race Duelist. I'm going to try not to lose my mind while editing this video. Goodbye.